Anyway, Clive, tell me, what are you seeing out there? What's the property market like? What's the feel? How are you talking to vendors? How are you talking to buyers?
Firstly, mate, I want to say thank you for having me, and you've been working on that intro for sure. That's a in the car. There's hours there. I can tell.
Yeah, lots
I was
of
just waiting.
hours.
I was waiting for the music and the sound, like choo choo choo, like welcome.
Nothing here. Just good looking Clive, that's it.
Real estate. What's happening out there, mate? It's pretty good. Pretty good first quarter, as you know. We've just finished, so we're in April now, which is crazy. Market's doing really well. I think it's almost, in essence, it feels similar. Oh, was it? What year was it? When the apartment, do you remember it was a couple of years ago? Maybe it was like 3 years ago, and the apartment market was really doing well, and there was like heaps of good apartment market sales.
This is what I'm sort of feeling now. Is that sort
Yeah,
of where you're going
yeah.
with?
This is where I'm going with it. Like this is what it feels like. It feels reminiscent of whatever year that was. Market when the apartments are getting huge prices, like the 2 bedroom apartment market, especially like that Randwick, Coogee, even Maroubra. Like it's the prices are huge. They're big, and you're almost not feeling it yet in that kind of that semi market, that house market, that kind of entry level, that step up that people usually take when they're trying to upsize. Almost because I think everyone with that money is selling now, getting big money, and now they'll look. But it's like a domino effect. It's like something that will probably take effect really in the next couple of months. I think as we head to spring, I think it could be a really good spring as these apartments get big money and those people look to upsize and buy bigger homes. I think they're getting much more than they probably expected, and I think they're gonna have bigger budgets. As well as
So
the interest rates, mate. The interest rates, like, if they come down a little bit more, that means they got even more again.
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, then I think that those houses, like semis, townhouses, that kind of entry level, 2 million plus to 3 million, I think that's on the rise to go up.
Yeah. But we haven't really felt that
Not yet,
Yeah.
not yet. Which is, I think it's a
So
great
under 2 million.
opportunity to like really jump into something because the gap's smaller. Do you know what I mean? Your stamp duty's less. You're getting a little bit more for your place. So then that means when you are looking, and there isn't a lot of stock at that level, that's the truth. But I think when you are looking, the gap is less. So you can make that jump better. Like, sometimes when the market's going up, everyone's like, I want to wait for a good time to sell in the marketplace when everything's flying.
Yeah.
But I think that's the wrong move. You're paying more for the next place, although you get a good place, price for yours.
Yeah.
But then you pay more in transfer costs, like your stamp duty's more. And the jump just can be too big. Yeah, you get a good price for your apartment, 1.5, 1.6, for example, but then the place you're going to is like high twos free.
Yeah.
That's a much bigger jump to go towards.
Yeah,
When,
no,
when
I'm with you.
when right now, if you're selling, say in Randwick, sell for 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, which is a big number for a two better, then you can make the jump to a $2 million semi. Like it's a no brainer. Like that jump is so much smaller.
I wonder what that is. It have to come down to affordability.
Affordability,
Yeah.
for sure, because there's still, well, you would know, there's still big loans.
Yeah.
Like you still got to take a chunk out.
Buyers, generally houses they've traded a couple of times. So
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of equity that's built up over a certain amount of time or whatever they've done. But apartments are leveraging pretty high.
Yeah, I'm sensing it. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it. That market is a lot more resilient. It feels at this point in time,
Yeah.
and it has since the start of the year.
Yeah.
Everything 3 million plus is a little bit harder, a little bit slower.
So if you own an apartment, this is the time to go, let's sell and let's upsize.
Let's upsize, mate. It's
Yeah.
something I'm even thinking about myself. I called you earlier in the week. I was
Yes.
like, mate, let's run some numbers. What does this look like? There's a few places on the market I'm trying to upsize.
Yeah, so let's go into that. I mean, I didn't want to bring it up on the podcast. But
We're here now.
I think we should. I think, because it goes on to your point about, okay, well, maybe it is a time to upsize when the apartments are getting at a really good price. So, I mean, let's go through your place. So, you own a one bedder in Clovelly.
Yeah.
Mate, amazing property. Let's start with, tell me what it was like to buy your first place, and then we'll go into
This
the
is
numbers.
this is a great plug and segue for yourself. I feel like you led me down this track on purpose.
No.
But you did play a pivotal role in that,
Yeah.
because like everyone, you kind of miss out on a couple when you're looking, and you kind of almost give up at some point, and you think, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a rest. It's not meant to be. I'm gonna give it a break. And it was truly I probably wasn't looking at one. I inquired on it, saw the guide. It was just too high originally. And it was also a suburb, Clovelly, which I thought, it's just going to be unaffordable for me anyway. So I kind of dismissed it. I just parked it to the side. Then one day I get an email and a phone call from you saying, mate, they've just dropped the guide. You should take a look at this. And like every agent, I suppose, you see it, and then you make your mind up pretty quickly, and you don't want to go to auction because I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
Missed out before then. I think what did I do? I missed out maybe on 2 only. So I missed out on one at auction, and then missed out on one off market with you. Remember on Broome Street? You took me to.
Yeah.
Because an agent was selling something off market. And I thought, you know what, let's make an offer straight after the weekend after I go see it.
Yeah.
Before because I think they moved the auction day. I can't remember. They either moved the auction day. It was just before auction where they dropped the guide, but it was still at that time when interest rates were going up.
Yeah, so
I got lucky.
You bought at a really good time. So you bought when there was a little bit of fear put back in the market.
Yeah.
So rising interest rate market. Definitely it was definitely coming into the winter months for sure.
It was, yeah, because I remember I saw it and it was raining and grey. I remember that.
Yeah. So property doesn't look as good. You're picking it up sort of coming into winter. So there's fear that this property's it is gonna become a lot darker in this property.
Yeah.
And mate, you picked it up for a really good price. So mate, really good property, and you live in that property now as well, which is unreal. So I mean, just before we go into the numbers of what it would look like you selling that and upsizing to the next one, what have you done to this property and why did you do it, like renovations wise?
I didn't do too much. I guess like everyone, you have big plans when you buy a place to do a reno because it was original.
What is it? 70s block? What is it?
Yeah, it's blonde brick 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, boutique block of 6. Anyone looking for a 1-bedroom apartment on Clovelly Beach? But no, yeah, boutique block of 6, mate. Yeah, blonde brick. There's nothing. It was original, like cypress pine floors. The kitchen's still the same. Oh, the kitchen is probably about 30 years old, like a Bunnings type reno. So it's not unbelievable. The bathroom's original. Yeah. That kind of era of like grey tile, and that mosaic type pattern. And then, so what I did, because you got to try to make things feel modern, even though I know people love that cypress pine look. They want to polish it back, but for 2 reasons. One, it echoes. It can echo. You know when you get that echoey sound. Yeah. So I thought, so I laid new floorboards, just for a light look as well, because it had that dark pine. I think when you make something lighter and brighter, feels newer. And when you put new boards down, it just makes it feel modern instantly. Yeah. And when you put new boards down, you put an acoustic layer, as you know. Between, so it just also made it feel a bit more solid, like less like that echoey sound as people walk through it. Freshly painted the whole thing. Did new electrics in terms of lights and switches. I got down lights and all those sorts of things in there now. It didn't have a built-in wardrobe, so I put in a built-in wardrobe. Just handles, new doors, like all the things, like new modern doors, just to bring it up to scratch, basically. So everything about it feels more modern.
What about door knobs?
Mate, that's a big contention for me because I made my first renovation mistake doing that, because you get excited. You find these knobs online. One, you don't know who knew that door handles were so expensive? Yeah. Because, bro, you ever, mate, I thought, like, I was looking at some that were like 600 each, like just for one side of the door. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. They look.
So you got to go double.
Dude, yeah, some of them are crazy, man. Like, you think they look, these look sick. This is the look I'm going for. Then you can also make the mistake of buying them, and it doesn't fit the door that you've got. Like, you've got to get a certain thickness, for instance. Yeah. Or it's got to be full hardwood, to actually like fit the bit that's in there. And then there's so many different like sockets and parts I didn't even know. Yeah. Like, I'm not a handy person, so like
you want to be both.
I didn't think it was going to be a problem. I think, just door handles. You just put them on the door. How hard can it be? Like, there's timber in the door. You just put them. But no, there's so much. Apparently, it's more to it.
So what did you end up going with?
I just got Bunnings ones. And I still got the expensive ones that I bought in the cupboard, thinking, next reno, next place, I'm bringing these with me. Yeah. So hopefully I like the same.
How much did you pay on the ones you didn't use?
Oh, I don't know, mate. A couple hundred. They were a couple hundred each. They were, what's that brand that everyone loves? Oh, yeah, mate, I don't know now.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so what you've done is you've done a cosmetic renovation as you bought this. So how much did the total renovations cost?
I think in and around the 10-ish.
10,000. And that's just to make it, and then
that's just to make it more. That's not doing big things. That's not doing like a kitchen or a bathroom. I
think we might put some photos up, like for the before and after. And like, what does $10,000 mean in terms of a value appreciation just on your place? Like, how would you? Like, night and day, like what roughly sort of appreciation or manufactured equity did you put on it?
Yeah. Well, it is manufactured because
Yeah.
in essence, it's all feel.
Yeah.
That's all real estate is.
Yeah.
You go ask someone, what they thought about a property after they visited it. It's always it didn't feel right or it felt good. We really like it. So
Feel plays a big part
Whoa.
in purchasing.
almost everything.
Yeah.
Like it's all perception. It's all feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's just how the Australian, especially in the southeast of Sydney and even eastern suburbs of Sydney, it's all feel. It's all perception. None of it really makes apples and apples sense. Like it's not 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
Like how can one property be more expensive than the other? Like I always say, like if you're an alien looking down on Earth on a map, you'd think everyone's crazy because how can one side of the property like of a street be worth more than the other side of the street? Like it doesn't make sense, mate. Or even in the same apartment block.
Yeah.
Again, like one will be more expensive than the other one, and it's all feel like it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
And everyone also can do a reno, but the perception of one, the cost of doing the reno, and two, the effort involved, usually turns people away. So they'll rather buy something that's done, like based on feel, and happy to pay a premium to do so. I think that's also just kind of where we're at as society as well. Like we just want things done now.
Yeah, I feel like there is a massive shift with people looking for more new.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing that I going is no, get something it doesn't have to be falling apart. Like get something that you can do paint, you can do the floors, you can do the doorknobs.
Yeah.
Add some value. I mean, just on your place, what sort of value did you add to it on a $10,000 renovation?
Well, I had an agent out yesterday. I won't name names, but
No, but just going back, because how long have you owned it for now?
2 years.
2 years. So go back 2 years ago. You've just done your renovation.
Was it 3 years? Maybe it's 3.
We can work that out later.
Like it's not important. Don't interrupt my flow of thought.
So you do a 10K renovation. You at the time, like how much?
In terms of instant,
yeah,
mate, I thought it probably went up, and it's hard to quantify, but in my mind, I felt I had already given it maybe like 50, maybe even more in terms of growth and it felt better. Like it's not a day. Numbers, I'm super conservative, which I found out yesterday when I had the agent over. I was like, well, I'm conservative.
Yeah. Well, let's go through that. I mean, what did you buy it for?
685.
685. Amazing purchase. Clovelly Beach.
It's good when the solicitor's calling you up going, mate, I can't believe you bought in Clovelly for under 700.
Yeah. Mate, they're the good ones. Like they're very far. Well, they're few and far between. It's like I find like Clovelly, Bondi. There's some of those markets that get things slip through sometimes, like the cracks.
Yeah.
So if you have potentially an outer area agent, or potentially even an agent that's used to selling houses, and they've got this small apartment, they just want to flog it. They're not actually working it. I feel like you can pick up some really good buys.
You can pick up some buys from some agents.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And it usually will come is because maybe the vendor is not from the area, they just want it gone, and there's not a lot of effort that goes into it. And I think that's sort of maybe the scenario that would have happened to yours is there wasn't a massive emotional attachment from the vendor. They were coming into winter, the property's getting dark, and you picked up a really good buy. But
which is why the right agent's super important, and also coming up with a good plan. Like if you were to advise that owner properly, you probably wouldn't have advised to do it that time of year. Being beachside suburb, colder, rainy, like that was just probably the wrong time of year to showcase that property, because in essence it was going to be someone like me, a first home buyer or an investor, and part of that is it's at the end of the day it's a 1-bedroom apartment, so you really got to sell them the dream. Every time I'm selling a 1-bedroom apartment or even 2-bedroom, because they're often small, they're not big, especially in Sydney, compared to where you can buy elsewhere in Australia and Sydney. It's the people are here for a reason. It's for the lifestyle. So if you don't have the ability to sell the lifestyle because now it's rainy and wet and no one wants to go outside and it's grey,
it doesn't have that
you lose the X factor. You lose the whole reason why people pay a premium to be near the beach. Like I walk down to the beach, mate. It takes me like 5 minutes. I measured it the other day. It was 150 meters from my door to the sand. 30 seconds, but that's conservative. But I'll get there pretty quick. Yeah. But it's like if that's a major X factor, and that's the wrong advice to sell something like that. And I think I got lucky. I just got lucky. It was just someone did, like you said, detached, wrong time of year. Interest rates were going up, and I took advantage of that, I suppose, at the time.
Yeah. No, I like it. And you also renovated the property, so it's also sales ready. So when you are ready to actually sell
Pull
and
the trigger.
essentially find another one of these, and you found a great opportunity for yourself, you go bang, it's ready to go. I don't need to organise trades. I don't need to do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
You know,
I'm ready to
you're
rock.
great at that.
I'm ready to rock, mate.
So you're in for 685. You didn't pay stamp duty because you're a first time buyer.
Yeah, I did.
Did you pay stamp duty?
Yeah, at that time there
It
was
was 650. So
650.
you would have paid 5,000 in stamp duty.
I think it was like 10 or 12.
Was it? Was it that much?
Yeah.
Okay, so you would have
Yeah, I
paid
think it's 10 or
10,000. So let's just call it 695.
Yeah, but then you're right. Then it went up. Then it went to like 700, 750. Now, was it 800, 900 now, I think?
800. So
800.
Yeah, essentially being a first home buyer, if you move into the property for a continuous 12 months, you can waive your stamp duty under 800,000, and it's tiered up to $1 million.
Yeah. So I think I had the tier from 650.
So
It all works. It all works out. It all works out.
Change of moving that
Yeah.
stamp duty exemption up, because you're going to sell this property to you 3 years ago. First home buyer. Well,
That's true.
it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And you're going to sell it just over 800, so they're going to go through the same process.
Probably
They're
more.
gonna Pay. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, let's
Yeah.
go over that. In a second. They're going to pay a concessional amount because it's going to be somewhere between $8 and $1 million.
Yeah.
I would say. Okay, so 695 you're in for. That's including stamp duty plus your 10,000 renovation. You're in for 705,000. Amazing. Mate, if you sold this, like, what would you say? Like, what was the appraisal that you got? Because I know this is a big thing before we go into that number. Is you have an emotional attachment to this property, so it's hard for you to value it. So why is that the reason you go elsewhere to get an appraisal from a different agent? Or
It's always hard looking at your own property,
Yeah.
objectively, of course, and that can go both ways. Sometimes you can overvalue it or undervalue it. In my case, as you know, I'm a conservative type. I was undervaluing it, which I don't think is a bad thing. Because I think when you're doing numbers, you got to be conservative, especially in a market that can move. And I think we're in that marketplace too. Like, anything can happen where things can jump quite quickly, either way. You know, so I think it's important to get a third party who just, I guess it comes down to trust. But I got 3 agents out, so I did the proper thing. I went through the whole process that anyone would, and just try to take a happy medium of what people are saying and the reasons why, based on data. Because I think that's all you can really do, and try to take the emotion out of it.
So explain to me the process, what you've actually done.
Well, I think this is probably most people, and I don't want to make an assumption, but I just literally jumped online, went to realestate.com or domain if people want to use domain, went to the sold section, looked for properties that were like mine and who was selling them, and then I was looking also at the transactions in terms of who was there a pattern of who's selling the most like mine, so not just people who just sold mine. One person, they weren't selling a lot, but they just happened to sell a couple of good ones in terms of the price was great, even though this wasn't necessarily their area. So I thought, I'll reach out to them. And the 2 others were fairly active.
Wow, love it. And then you've got them over. What's the steps from there?
We got them over, obviously show them the property, do a property appraisal, do a little bit of a walkthrough, then a sit down, talk about, of course, values. That's a given. I think that's why you're there, is to give a base on price. Now, I've done it myself, and I know, in essence, an agent isn't a valuer. Like, we get it wrong all the time, so it's not really our job. And I think people forget that. Like, when people want to hear a price, and even I wanted to hear a price, because you do, but at the end of the day, it's an opinion. It's typically based on what's sold, previously, and just because something sold previously doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And that's for better or worse. Like, it's just, in essence, it's just a benchmark to look at, okay, what's a buyer going to compare my place to, what's sold historically, as well as what's on the market. Because at the same time, you're still in a competitive marketplace. So you've got a product that's competing with other products. So what else can I buy with the same money? Similar to if you're buying a car, I always look at it that way, because if my budget's X, then what cars can I buy for that budget? What's going to be the best value for money, or what's just going to look the nicest sometimes for that money? and that's, I think it's a two-way street. So you're kind of based on prices, on sales, and what's on the market. But again, that's not necessarily what the final outcome can be, because every property is a little bit different. It's like, you don't know till you get to be on the marketplace. Like, just like when a bank does a valuation, and believe me, don't get me started on some of these bank values lately, because
they do come in all over the shop, don't they?
Oh, mate, at the moment, all over the shop, they're overs. Like, the last couple have been overs.
Yeah.
And I'm just
thinking, your valuation.
Well, mine was.
Yeah.
Mine was definitely. But no, I'm talking about clients, mate. Like clients who've ever refinanced, which I understand the whole refinancing evaluation. Nice try. Like try to get you to sink into it, some equity and get some more products off them.
Yeah.
But my more concerning ones are the ones where people look to upsize, not just refinancing. They're actually doing finance to buy a property, and they get the valuation on their current property wrong.
Yeah.
And it can be wrong, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of wrong, and it can really put that client in a horrible spot to be in because they think, where are you going to find the extra money?
Wrong headspace as well. And I think a lot of valuations now are coming back as automated and they're desktop valuations.
That's the problem.
Which banks are using, which it makes my life easier, clients' lives easier, but they can be wrong because there's not a human there going comparing
Absolutely.
two properties.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of it. You got to walk through a property as if you were a buyer, you know? And I always say to people, like, the bank's not a buyer. They're not buying your place. The agents, like, we're not buyers. We're not going to buy your place. We try to use what data and experience we've had previously in terms of putting up, you know, ourselves in a buyer's position, going, okay, what would I look at? You know, what's going to be a negative? What's going to be a positive? But at the end of the day, you're still not a buyer, so it's different. It's hard to detach or attach yourself to that position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's hard. Like, you walk through a place, it could be dark, but if you're on a desktop, there's no mention of it being dark.
A lot of them are
you know?
automated, so there's just
Yeah.
bang, bang, bang. It's just, it will pull, like... And
We'll just do like median price, right?
Yeah, essentially they're pulling in median price.
Yeah.
They're, you know, potentially another, like, two, or in your case, why your valuation was coming back so high is you were getting compared to other one-bedders in Clovelly. Other one-bedders in Clovelly are double the size. Which I don't, you know, who knows what the metrics are, but it was... What was the highest valuation we got on it?
1.2.
1.2, yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
We're mad. Like, I'd love that. I'd profit that, but it ain't 1.2.
Yeah.
Which I knew at the top, like, you know, like, but I don't hold on to it. But some people, like, unfortunately, there's a perception that banks underestimate values and they're usually conservative, and that's the danger.
Which the valuers sometimes do, but you need
sometimes
an in-person short form valuation.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
But the danger is that most people aren't doing the in-person ones anymore.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of the automated ones, and an owner will, or a homeowner will they'll hold on to it like if it was gospel.
Yeah.
Like, if that's the word, that's the value, that's it.
Yeah.
And they'll make decisions, and this is the danger. They'll make decisions based on that valuation. They'll take more money out, for instance, even if they're not moving. They'll take more money out and, you know, renovate or refinance and use that money for a holiday or whatever it is.
That's the big one.
That's the danger.
Capitalization. So going bang, I'm gonna, instead of doing a 20,000 renovation, I'm doing 80 because it's worth X amount.
Yeah.
It's actually not. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll talk to these owners, and literally yesterday I had one, and it's probably over not heap. Well, it is heaps because it was like 100 or so grand over probably was worth, maybe more, maybe 150. One for 150, and the way that this owner was talking about his property in this bank file as being justified when nothing around him has sold anywhere near within that price range. In fact, it would set a new record for that pocket of Maroubra, and it just didn't make, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Because I can hear how definitive he is in the way he's thinking and what decisions he's starting to make. Because he's also talking about having his first baby and then upsizing, and then the concern is like, well, if you're making decisions based on, you know, that number, then I don't think this is the right time for you. I don't think that's the number you kind of have to base your decisions on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna cost yourself money. Like, you could get in a tough spot.
And having those hard conversations, like that's not something you probably hear too often from agents out there. Like, how important is it to tell someone no?
Well, for me, I guess because everyone's different, mate, and it's more value based.
Yeah.
For me, I've always come from a very straightforward, honesty approach. Now, that's not everyone, and I'm not here to bag, you know, anyone, and everyone's got a different way of doing business. And for them, maybe they just want to do more business, and I'm not going to pretend like I do the most, because I definitely don't. And maybe that this is probably a part of it, but one, I can put my head on the pillow at night, sleep easier, and I'm doing okay. I'm not doing too bad.
It's very humble. Yes,
you know.
It does very well.
So it's I think it's super important, as well as one, these people are making, like, there's a human side to all this whole real estate thing, and some real estate agents just treat it as a game and a way to make money, but there's people's lives, like, they're making huge life decisions, and if you don't give the right advice, it can cost them, and it costs them years, like, not just money, but like, if
Time.
Yeah, time. Like I've got a client at the moment. You know, the bank val. No offense, banks. I'm sorry for smashing you guys. Please look kindly on my new loan. But like they valued at 1.2. The property is worth like a 1. It's like, and then they're trying to figure out how do they find an extra $200,000, which they don't have. They're bridging at the moment. They've already settled on a new place, and you've got to break it to them like, because we weren't aware of this until after they bought. Is that the bank got it wrong, and we're really sorry, and we're the ones that should be apologizing because there's a bank that does. But every time they go to the bank to see what they can do, the bank just tells them, "Oh, look, the market's getting better. You still got time."
Yeah.
Like that's horrible. That's horrible advice to give. They're thinking, how do I bridge the gap? Where do I find $200,000 extra from? Can I tack it on to the end of the loan or add it to their current mortgage that they've got now? But the bank's just not being very helpful at the moment, unfortunately for them.
They never really are. Have you ever sat in a branch?
Not in a long time, mate. There's even branches still around.
Yeah, they're barely around, but yeah, you can. Yeah, there's no reason to sit in a branch. Like it's torture.
Yeah.
Very different approach. Like, and some mortgage brokers are like that as well. But it's like, the bank's there for the bank. The broker is actually there for you. That's the difference.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. No, and I sense that from you, like genuinely, because and this is not pissing in the wind or pissing in your pocket. It's just that I have clients that have used you, and I have family and friends that have used you, and I don't know a broker yet other than you. And look, maybe I'm not looking that hard, but you will.
You better not be looking.
You will, yeah. You will send you'll send them properties. You'll give them advice. I know that I've been on freeway conversations with you with mates, trying to negotiate for them, and going to, was it my mate's sister not that long ago that you bid at auction for them? You know, so it's different. Not that one, but you know, it's baby. You can't get them all. It's a journey.
But actually, just going on that, I remember that auction. So I actually didn't even bid at that auction, and they were freaking out the whole time. Like, when are you going to bid? When are you going to bid? I didn't want to show the agents how much they had to spend. It wasn't for sale. It wasn't on the market, so we didn't need to bid. Yeah,
which is a great strategy.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if it's not on the market, if it's not for sale, or if there's someone that's higher than you anyway, what's the point of bidding?
Yeah. Well,
other than pushing the price up.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it, I guess, especially in a growing market, it makes you hard. It makes it. I mean, you set the base for the next property you're actually about to bid on. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's go into that. I mean, like for you, I want to circle back to actually going through your numbers about you upsizing.
We got lost there.
We will circle back to it. But tell me, while we're on the topic, like, what from a buyer's perspective, like from them, like, what do you want to see as an offer? Like, do you like to see offers? Like, explain me the process. What makes your life easier, I guess, to work with a vendor?
Oh, mate, I guess there's no real strategy to make my life easier because it's case by case. Every scenario is different. Every sale is different because every owner's personality is different or expectations is different, as well as every buyer's expectations, you know, in terms of the price is different, and as well as what the ultimate outcome is that they want to buy it for as cheap as possible, and the owner wants to sell for as much as possible. So it's always a balancing act, and of course there's a whole spectrum of personality types within that. So you do have to read the play, and I think that's probably the most important message, is that it's not really about making my life easier. I think if you're just honest and truthful with the agent, and that's all you can be, and similarly back, like more often than not, and look, I don't know if this is across the board, but for me, like if someone's open and honest with me, I'm typically open and honest with them back, and typically you help each other to get the deal done.
So you're saying rapport with an agent is crucial?
Rapport, certainly. Yeah, because I think then they'll not just go, like, you can't help but have some bias, even if we admit it or not. Like, you know, you want to help everyone and try to get the best result and everything else, but there is probably a subliminal part of you that goes, okay, I kind of almost like this person better. They stay on top of your mind, you know, and whether it's them you just trying to help them buy the current property that you've got, but they'll stay on top of your mind if they're a good buyer. Even if they miss out on that one, and you'll try to find them another property to link them up to that could be off market or something else. And also, real estate's a long game, and so whether it's with you or not, and even referring a property to them that's not yours often goes a long way too, or giving them advice on how they should negotiate or what you think a property's worth that may or may not be yours, then the client's down the track for you as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of agents miss, or a lot of buyers miss actually. Like, it is scary to walk into an open and
definitely
talk to an agent.
Oh, I get it. Like, mate, I get it. Like, because if it was me, I know my personality type. If I was walking in, I wouldn't want to engage with it. with an agent either, especially in a room full of people, you know. And almost how do you almost begin that conversation? Like it's just like, hi, you know.
Tell me, what do you want to hear?
And it's almost also like it's like then the fear of trying to give away too much. But I don't think there's ever really you can never really give away too much.
Well, maybe to you, but to other agents, you have to be careful, especially around price. I always say, just say you're around the price guide and build rapport. Treat him how you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Get along, get excited.
Yeah.
Ask him how the market is. Ask him what they think. What's some questions like a buyer could ask you that can sort of help with their negotiations though? Like, is it like around why are they selling, or are they terms at the like what sort of things other than price?
Yeah, I guess terms is probably an important one to understand, and I think it's good for a buyer too. Like if I was a buyer, that's kind of the question I would ask. Never really why they're selling, because it doesn't really help you anyway. Like they're selling. Yeah. But I think.
Well, I think like that question, if you get a solid answer that the owners are getting divorced or they're.
But many, well, I guess some people do.
It's
but
really messy.
but many agents won't say that. Yeah. And sometimes it's because you get into situations where the owner's like, can you please not mention our personal circumstance? And then you don't know who's a friend, who's coming through to check it out and secret shopping you. And I think you trip yourself up. As well as it's a quite personal time. Like they'll work out that probably down the track anyway. If someone was serious about buying a property, they're going to notice when they start getting solicitors changes and negotiating that it's just going to come out in the wash. But I think advertising that, like at an open home, I just don't feel like it's a nice thing to do. Like airing out someone's dirty laundry, like they're getting a divorce, you know. And some people are really sensitive with even estates. Sometimes you'll sit with estates and you're like, please don't say it's the first time offered. Please don't say it's an estate, which, you know, funnily enough, estates usually do really well. Typically, because everyone gets excited. Like if you're a buyer, you feel like there's a deal there and you know that they have to sell. That's a deceased estate. Yeah. Sorry for anyone listening. Which means like, you know, maybe a family member or someone else has inherited some property of someone who's passed and now they're selling it. Because is it still 2 years? After 2 years, you have to pay capital gains tax. Typically, is the motivator.
I wouldn't know what the rules are. Is that the rule? Yeah. So
unless it's changed.
They got 2 years to sell the property and then don't pay capital gains tax.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Unless something's changed, which it could have. I'm not reading every day, but it could have. But yeah, that was what it was. Yeah. So they'll usually make that decision within those 2 years. Yeah. You know, who wants to pay capital gains at the end of the day, because it's free money.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let it grow for another 2 years.
Let it grow.
But just circling back, like what's something that a buyer.
I think terms always is good to understand what someone's circumstances as well as yours, because then I think I often give away your settlement date, like how much time like do they need, because that will give away plenty as well. The standard contract has 6 weeks, as you may or may not know. 42 business days is usually on the front page of the contract. Now if it's a little bit longer than that, that also is a bit of a tell that, you know, maybe they've bought something, you know, or maybe they just have an open mind on a longer settlement because they know that someone who's going to buy their place is typically upsizing and will need more time, and they haven't sold their current property. That's a good one for an agent, I find too, because you kind of then know their motivation. Why are they buying? You know, if it is for more space, then when they have a current property to sell, then where's that property? And then all of a sudden, you'll spend some time with that person. Because they've got something to sell. So there's some favoritism, I suppose, is probably the way to say it, but that's the truth. Like you want to help everyone, but if you kind of isolate a couple, then there's obviously some people you want to try to help more. Ultimately, if someone has more money, there's nothing you can do. That is what it is. Like there's no game plan or strategy to beat someone with a bigger budget. That's the truth.
What about, like, let's say someone does have a bigger budget. Well, you don't know as a buyer, but let's say hypothetically you're competing against someone else that might have a bigger budget. What can, like, is how crucial is speed with someone wanting to sell?
Super. Like if you're a buyer bidding,
the buyer,
or negotiating.
So pick up something, negotiate before auction, and the vendor's happy to sell.
Oh, speed, is important. Like I don't want to give away too many buyer tricks, make my life difficult. I'm not a buyer's agent, but typically if you go in strong, if you go in strong in terms of your offer or your bid, you know, especially firstly, because I know and you can't help it because it's human nature to come in low, to hope to get it at a low price. But the truth is with that, you just invite everyone to come in with you, because if it's low, then everyone wants. Well, that's a bargain. I'll get involved, and
now I'm excited.
Now I'm excited.
the growth train. I got to jump. I'm on it.
Yeah, like I'll happily put my hand up. And the truth is, the hardest part is the first offer or first bid at an auction. That's the hardest one.
Yeah.
The rest are kind of easier. Once you get your first one out of the way, you almost got those nerves. It's like jumping off a cliff or something, the bungee jumping. Like or your first tattoo, like you think so much about it.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you got 10 tattoos.
Yeah.
It's the same in bidding. Like the first one's the most nervous one. Like, and you'll see people in the crowd and I get it. Like it's a nerve wracking time. Like, and you're in a crowd, like people are watching.
Yeah.
So you're really nervous about it. There's an auctioneer like pointing and staring at you,
Screaming.
wanting you to do something. There's probably an agent in your ear. You're thinking, piss off.
Yeah.
So of course you kind of like freeze up a little bit. So I find that the lower auction or even an offer beforehand starts, the better the kind of property almost runs, because everyone feels enticed to enter the bidding or negotiations.
And once they do have that original bid, no one likes to lose.
No one likes to lose.
Yeah.
It's a momentum building game.
Yeah.
And I think that's what auctions is. It's about building momentum. You start to get comfortable with putting your hand up, going 5 or 10 or whatever it is in terms of increments. So on increments, if I was a buyer, I'd be doing much bigger increments. I'd even probably mix up the bidding a little bit in terms of just what that number looks like. Maybe I'll go small, maybe then I'll go big.
So explain me an auction from a buyer's perspective. What's a good strategy?
Everything I just mentioned.
Just really explain it. So you're going same increments, but I didn't understand the part that you're changing. So what?
I said big increments.
Yeah.
And then change the increments up maybe after a while. So definitely start strong, and then you kind of almost want to annoy people. Like if someone else is thinking they're going to play the same game and go in 10s or 5s or 15s, then you kind of go, maybe you just for fun, you just throw in a 1 over theirs.
Yeah.
Then they'll go again, maybe at a 5 or something, and then you'll go just one more on top,
I always say stand at the back of the auction. Stand at the back and see who you're bidding against, because when you start seeing husband and wife start arguing, they're close to the end. Or
that could be a strategy too, but ultimately it's going to get to where it gets to anyway.
Yeah.
So that you standing out, that makes no difference, because in essence, if it's not on the market, it's not on the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the best thing for you is to get it on the market as soon as possible, and that's when the gamesmanship starts.
Yeah.
Because if it's not for sale on the market, then there's no point.
Yeah.
There's no strategy for that.
And you're listening for, we're on the market, it's selling, it's for sale.
Absolutely. It's going to be sold. Sometimes you'll see the agents will walk, to each to everyone, like we're definitely selling now, it's on the market, like where it's the next bid could get it. And that's probably when you want to, I guess, if you are sitting back, then that's when you definitely want to participate, because you're playing for keeps. You're playing for the keys then. So you have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how do you expect to buy the property? And then, you can maybe sit back a little bit, just watch. But I think it's more about psyching people out. Because if you watch, you're just letting other people do the job. But if you psych people out thinking like, you're not going to give up, like this guy's got heaps of money, and you may not.
Yeah.
But people will just get worn down.
You're a first auction man bidder.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are you bidding first?
Because the statistic is actually the person who actually opens it up tends to buy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Love that.
Because it's strong, not afraid. There's no strategy. It's like, whatever, I'm getting this today. Boom.
Would you start at a fair price or low ball?
If it was me bidding, I wouldn't lowball. I'd be high to scare people off.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're bidding, say, at the guide already, and people start thinking, wow, it's already at the guide.
Yeah. But if you
like, what's his next bid? Yeah. As an agent, I'd hate that.
Yeah.
Firstly, because it takes the momentum out.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it takes the momentum out of the whole auction process.
How do we kill the momentum?
And well, that's all it is. And and psyching your other competition out.
So just on that, like if you are in a bit of a bidding war with someone, like you really should take your time with your bids.
It's the opposite, I think.
Yeah.
I guess everyone has different strategy, I suppose. But if it was me, I would be trying to psych them out. I'd be trying to go big. I would be trying to make them think that I'm going to bid forever. Yeah. Because as soon as you start to change and you start to slow up and give away tails that you really need to think about it, all that tells me is that you're coming to the end of your rope. Yeah. Like if you're going slow and you've really got to think about it, I'm like, they've really got to think about this. Like they're almost out. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. So you want same increments?
Big increments is what I said.
But big increments.
Don't always go the same. Sometimes you just got to be a pest.
Big increments and at pace.
At pace. And when I mean at pace, I mean you're making the decisions quickly. Like if it's over here, maybe a couple of people, you can let it go for a little bit if they're going back and forth. But then when it's your turn and it's going between you and another person, that's when you want to be fast. You don't want to be making it think like, oh, can I afford another 5 or another 10 or do the maths? Because people will do that. And actually, that's a good one for buyers agents. Like, I know if I'm at an auction, and even a good auctioneer will know this too, is that if you have a buyer's agent bidding and they haven't gone to their client, like if the client's there, because they may not be there, sometimes they're on the phone, or seek instructions on the phone, like you know that they're nowhere near their limit, because if they are, they'd have to get instructions from the buyers about how much more can I go? Can I go over this limit? We're at the limit. So you know straight away. And that's similar to like a mum and dad. So that's why that strategy of acting like, you know what, I'm not even close to my bidding. You know, it's poker.
Yeah.
It's to psych other people out, because then you'll start to psych other people. Oh, honey, I think he's going to go a couple more. Like, he looks like he's just bidding really strong. He has heaps of money. He's probably one of those investors of heaps of money, and they just come up with a story, and you'll see the husband and wife thinking about, oh no, can we do another 5? She's nudging him.
Yeah.
You know, these are it's all the body language you kind of like to read off people on the floor.
What sort of body language, like, other than the hip?
Sometimes the hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hand. Sometimes the head nod. Sometimes the shake. It's all these little things. Like, it's not any one thing, because everyone's different, and people just will do it in that moment because they're having real conversations. That's the truth. They are having real convos.
Yeah.
And you'll see a big nod, like you can't miss that. Or someone like kind of like going to, like, sometimes you'll see it, like someone will go to bid, but then someone's beat him to it, so then he'll put his hand back down.
Yeah.
So you know that guy's going to bid at some point.
Yeah.
You just don't know when he tried.
Yeah.
Someone's just beat him to it, but maybe he just got too nervous. Or sometimes the wife, you can tell, like, like doing these ones, like, yeah, one more. And so there's so many different ones, but you have to sit back to be able to observe that.
Yeah.
Because some people will be in a rush, and if you miss those tells, then you miss that opportunity. But as well as, I think you don't want to get in the way.
Yeah.
And I think I might have mentioned to you before, like, as a good agent in an auction environment, you almost don't want to get away with the auctioneer, like, because momentum will build itself. Like, sometimes you'll feel like you're an agent and you need to go over there to do something or have a smart conversation to try to bid them up, but they're going to go up anyway. You're just slowing them down by getting in the process, and they're probably not even listening to what you're saying anyway. Going, oh, hey, are you still bidding? Bid 5 more. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're getting really close. Like, that's you're probably slowing down what they were going to do anyway, which was probably bid. Yeah. Again. Yeah. But now you've slowed the momentum down just because you thought you had to get involved when you didn't.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people do that. That's just, like, I guess, human nature.
Human nature.
To be, like, if you're there's, like, I find it with refereeing sport, like, you either get a referee that wants to let the game play and he's not the main character, or you get a referee that wants to be the main character.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah. That main character. It's like, and many agents, and I get it, like, we do. Like, you do want to be the main character. You do feel a bit of pressure. One, you think there's also neighbors around. You want to feel like you're some value, you know? And then also at the same token to that, like, then the owners are there as well. It's like, well, Clive, why aren't you, trying to get more or do something else? But it's like, at the same token, that's why the auctioneer's there. That's why that person's getting paid. He's the maestro. He's the one, playing a beautiful musical melody, like trying to get everyone's bids up. And then you're there if things don't, to support. In that case, you almost have to take a step back. You're the supporting role then. Watch, observe. If you need to interact, then interact. Then make sure that people are definitely 100% out. Make it clear to them that we're on the market or it's not on the market yet. Those are the conversations you got to have. Or if it's slowed down, you got one bidder, go to the highest bidder, and then there's maybe a negotiation on the floor between that person and the owner. But outside of that, we really shouldn't be getting involved. Yeah,
no, I love that. And tell me, like, how important is it to have a good auctioneer?
Oh, mate, I'll tell you, I've been to, I never used to think, and don't hurt me, any auctioneers out there. Don't abuse me. But because I've seen some of them do jiu-jitsu and stuff now, so they could tie me up and choke me out. But I used to actually didn't think it was like, I was like, oh, and I guess that's everyone's frame of thought, like with agents too. It's like any agent or auctioneer can call an auction. You're just there to call bids. But I've learned in my later years, I've especially witnessed a few, but there's a big difference between someone who just sits there, lets awkward silences pass, just calls bids as if someone was like, just an order taker, basically, just writing it down. And I've seen the difference between someone who really controls the room, or like, if you're not the room, but if you're outside, they just control the momentum of things. And they will be, I guess, I used that word maestro before, but that's exactly what it is. There's no silences really. They keep momentum going. People are talking, people are laughing, they're extracting bids, they're having conversations sometimes even with buyers, which I find really good and really helpful because it makes them feel a bit more comfortable as well. So I think there's a huge difference, and the end result, it's hard to quantify what that looks like, but there is a difference between getting a good price and a great price.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And in terms of like from a vendor's and a buyer's perspective, what's the benefits of an auction?
Well,
Like, is it a no-brainer for a vendor to go to auction? Like, what's your take on it?
well, as you know, Sydney is just auction centric, which I think everyone else in the world thinks we're crazy. I think, especially I get a lot of Americans and like, or Europeans, and they're like, I can't believe you guys auction here. Like, that's like usually what we do last. If it fails, we'll put it to auction and they'll just sell for any price. But maybe that's why they sell for any price.
Yeah.
Because they do for sale. So we do things so backwards here. But auction in my mind's a no-brainer as an owner. And I'm not just saying that as an auction agent. Like, I don't get anything extra out of it. But it does give you...
If anything, you're working harder because you're at the property longer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely you are. And I think there's so many benefits to it. Like, it just gives you the most control as an owner and as someone who's their representative trying to sell them and get them the best price, the most control over the whole campaign. And there's only so much control you can really have in terms of selling, because there's a lot out of your control, really. Yeah. But what it does allow you to do, it allows you to build a database of buyers within that 3 to 4 weeks, collect them all for one crescendo. Now you can always sell prior to the auction date, so it gives you a crack of selling prior. If you sell at auction, you sell at auctions. That's a second time you can do it. Or if you don't reach reserve on that day, then all of a sudden you got a third attempt, which is putting a for sales price on it anyway. What I like about auction is that date is so flexible. Like, you're not governed by that date. It gives a competitive tension, if you want to call it that, in terms of gives an end date in mind for people to prepare themselves, get ready. Like, we need to make a decision. So it builds pressure. Also, if it's not going that well, you can push it back. Like, if you need an extra 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, if it's not going well first time around, maybe you need to change the campaign, do something different with the guide or photos or whatever it is, or have something addressed in the strata or building report that could be fixed. All of a sudden you have a whole new auction campaign underway, then of course you can push it back and you've lost nothing other than time. And then thirdly, you can bring it forward. Like, if you feel like, okay, we've got a few people who are making offers prior, they're all kind of around the same level. Why don't we just all get them in a room? Like, why don't we just have the auction, just have it sooner within the first 2 weeks?
Don't want to lose them as well.
Don't want to lose them. Absolutely. So you can always bring the auction forward. Auction conditions are great. Like, there's no, like, this is so not outside of Sydney. Everyone does cool off, but we don't do cool off here, which is like so strange when someone suggests a cool off in Sydney. Which waives a cooling off period. Yeah, so similar to
5 days.
So that's if you're buying prior. So similar to why we do auctions, if you buy at auction, there is no cool off period. You have to do your due diligence beforehand. That's the whole point. You're doing your strata reports and building report beforehand, getting your finance checked and the contract checked and all those changes before the auction date, which makes sense because in other cases, doing it with a cool off is like almost the other way around. Like, how can you make an offer on a property without knowing everything about it first to make sure everything's right? Like, it seems backwards to me, and people think we're the backwards ones. Like, it does by doing it with unconditional if it's beforehand, like with a 66W certificate, as you mentioned, or doing an auction where there is no cool off. So there's so many benefits to doing it, as well as you give a buyer's guide, an auction's guide, which I know is a big contention to people, but it's a guide based on, I guess, a floor price, based on a few things. What have other properties sold for like that, as well as what are you competing with in the marketplace? Because again, you're in the marketplace. So you are competing for buyers' attention. So if you're an owner, it's almost the best way to do it, because if you put a for sales price on it, you've given away the game, and it almost always has to be higher than what the market value probably is, because naturally you want to negotiate as a buyer. Like, that's just human nature. If you see a price, you want to ask for a little bit less. Yeah. So the only way to get more competition or more interest in a property would be to put the price down, which sends a very negative message to the marketplace. So that's the only way you can get new traffic to your property. If you've failed the first week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long you're on the market and thinking, oh, we need to do something different, we've been sitting here for sale. Like, there's no urgency other than making it attractive by price. So with auction, it's the opposite way around. It's a building a pyramid, I suppose, or pushing people up in terms of a price, making the price attractive, and it goes up during the campaign. Typically, if you have interest in offers, that's the right thing to do. I don't think all agents do that. But in essence, in our case, we almost always, like, if we get, say for instance, something starts at 900 and then all of a sudden you get interest at 950, you'll push the guide up to 950.
Yeah. And what about from a buyer's perspective? Why would they want to buy at auction? Because it scares so many people.
It would, yeah. But in the same case, I'll make the argument that for sale is just as scary. And the reason being is that the transparency is gone. you're no longer either in a room or on site, face to face with who basically is your competition. Like it's hard to know. One, I think things take longer when it's for sale. When it's not an auction property, I think things take really long. There's no urgency. There's no time. I think even though we want to be like, oh yeah, we don't want to go to an auction, I think we've all fallen into that trap. Like I call it the Netflix thing, when you're scrolling for hours. Like if there's nothing pushing you or no urgency, you're just not going to make a decision. We're just not decision makers. Like there's some rare few of us that can make quick decisions out there. But for the majority of the population of the marketplace, people don't make decisions quickly, and sometimes we need that push. Like you pushed me to buy my place. Like I've been a buyer. I know what it's like. You're nervous. So you need just like an unbiased or a bias, call it whatever it is. You just need someone who's a third party to just push you along. And I think an auction kind of almost manufactures that. But again, I think the biggest thing is the transparency around it. It's hard to know what things are worth. That's the truth, because we're not valuers, and the only way you get really confidence of seeing what things are worth is by seeing if other people are interested at a similar price to you.
Yeah, and especially when we're in these tough markets, like if you're bidding at auction with a couple of people and that's worrying you, that's a good thing. You want people at the auction, because when we're in a hot market, when you sell it, mate, double that, triple that, the amount of people, and those people are going to be there. That whatever it may be, if it's a one bedder, they're first time buyers or investors, or if it's a house, it's a young family. If it's a house, it could be an older family.
Yeah.
If it's a semi, it's a young family. But those sorts of people are going to be there on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
It's good to be at a packed auction.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, and it makes you feel good. Like the amount of times I've seen people at an auction and they've bid against 3 or 4 other people and they're stoked, because it just gives you that confidence. And I think that's all we really need to make a decision. You want the confidence to know you've done the right decision, because when it's the other way around and you're the only one, it's how hard is it to tell yourself, oh, I've done something right here, even though you might have got the best buy of your life. Like, you're just nervous. So I think it just fills you with confidence to know that also that there aren't fake offers flying around. There's no smoke and mirrors. Like this is it. This is the day. Like you can see that person eye to eye. Like I've got to make a decision. I know where it's at. This is grand final footy, and I've got to kick a try. Kick a goal.
Very good. And tell me, like, what are some tips, like, for vendors out there? Like, you've obviously been through a renovation, but, like, what can someone do to actually, and what's so crucial before they sell to get the best possible price and attract the most people?
Yeah, look, mate, I've this conversation all the time. Had it again yesterday. It's just a conversation that most owners will ask. What can we do? And it's actually quite simple, and in my opinion, cost effective for the end result. And it's always hard to quantify, because people always ask, if I spend X, will I get X back? And it just doesn't necessarily work that way. But the 2 ways you can look at it is, it will make your property easier to sell in terms of time frame on market. There's less, I guess.
As in a renovation.
Yeah, renovation, or
touch up.
You don't even have to call it a renovation. You can just call it like a little bit of sprucing up. Yeah. Because you don't have to go through. Like when I think renovation, I hear that word. I think kitchens and bathrooms and things and extensions, but you don't have to do that stuff. Like all you want to do is just try to make it the best versions of itself. Because I think when you start doing kitchens and bathrooms, it's a different ball game. Then every decision you make from there has to be perfect for it to actually work out if you're going to sell straight after.
Yeah.
You put all that capital, because it's a lot of capital to put in. So then all of a sudden the layout's got to be perfect, the finish choice has got to be perfect. Then the house itself's got to be perfect in a way to actually get the capital back from putting a big reno in. So I think that's a much harder conversation, harder decisions to make. But if you're talking about, I'm not going to call it renovations, but call it a touch-up before going to the market, I think that's a much different process, where you can spend anywhere from $5, $10, $15, $20,000 to then get, 50, 60, 70, 80. It feels worth it. Or 100, It feels worth it to me. And as well as you're just going to get less resistance and pushback from the marketplace, or negative feedback, because you're trying to just make it the best version of itself. Something that feels clean, That's what people want.
That's what it comes back to.
Yeah. The feel good. So you can do floors for not that much money, whether it's carpet, if you really want to save money, or timber floorboards. The truth is, no one really cares about hardwood, typically. You can just change it. You can get a good hybrid these days. If it's apartment, Hybrid's big.
Hybrid's the way to go, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Everyone loves hybrid.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's way better than hardwood. A little bit more cheaper too. Like hardwood is crazy expensive. as well as, you know, if you got an apartment and it's just like a 2-bedroom apartment or 1-bedroom apartment, I would just do laminate. Like no one knows the difference. No one at that price range cares.
Yeah.
It's going to be an investment or if someone's first home. They're not expecting it to have herringbone floors, hardwood, you know, cypress, whatever it is, alpine, oak. So I think I would you'd do something like that, and that's quite cheap. And paint, like the amount of times, mate, I've been impressed by just walking into the same place, the same property, from when it hasn't been painted, like 20, 30, 40, 50 years longer sometimes, of no paint, to just it freshly painted is huge. Like it just, the difference is incredible what paint can do. And it's in essence a small cost.
What does it do? Does it change the light? Like what does it do?
It makes it feel fresher. I think people want to be attracted to new, fresh, clean environments. Fresh paint does that. It brings light, especially Lexicon half is my favorite one, or quarter strength. It just makes it's just a more of a lighter white rather than that creamy yellow white, which can be warm, but it can make it feel older, and sometimes a little enclose the space. The right property can use that warmth, but I think for most, if you go Lexicon and keep it a nice cool white, it makes the space feel lighter, brighter, bigger sometimes, which is all an illusion. It's just paint. Yeah. And I think then sometimes if people want to go through the effort of doing lights, you know, if it's really, really needs changing, like they're really like original, and now all of a sudden you've done new floors and new paint, you almost have to, because then you can see the stark difference and contrast between the old fixtures and the new. So I think you would do electricity then, but you don't always have to. And that's as small as I would probably take it. And then landscaping. Like you don't have to do like, and when I say landscape, I don't mean get a landscaper out there and redo the garden. I'm just talking about just decluttering it. Like if there's bushes, maybe sometimes you get rid of bushes. Sometimes you just make it clear. If it's a house and you're trying to sell the yard to a family, then just try to make the yard feel the biggest it possibly can and the flattest and most clean it possibly can, so that it feels inviting for a family to go out there and run around a little Jack and Sally. And then mulch. Like it's really simple stuff. It's which in end wouldn't cost that much, but it would probably bring back more, like, you know, 4 or 5 times the amount.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what about furniture? How big does furniture play a part in making something feel good?
Oh, must. Yeah, no, like that's my one like non-negotiable is furniture. If the place is going to be empty, that is. Because of course, if someone's living there, it's different. I don't expect people to move out. It's always nice, makes your life easy. Yeah. Or if it's tenanted, then you got no choice. Yeah. But if it's an empty space, you almost have to. And again, hard to quantify. Like it's just hard to put a dollar amount on how much value these things add, but they do. Like it helps to the speed of time and it's on the marketplace, the way it presents, its feel. People aren't really visual, even though they may say they are, but they'll come into a space and they'll be like, oh, I can't fit my lounge in here. And I'm thinking this lounge is bigger than my whole 1-bedroom apartment put together. Like I don't know how you can't put a lounge in this space. Like people just, they don't get it. Which is why floor plans are really typically hard for people to understand. Unless you're an engineer or an architect or a builder, like you prefer floor plans because that way you can understand the space better. Yeah. Everyone outside of that, they need to be in the space to feel it, see it, and see what goes there for it to work out. Otherwise, they don't. And if you have a place empty, and you've probably been in some empty places, even I remember my own experience actually when I bought my place. I walked into it empty for the first time. I thought, oh no, what have I done? Because the property always looks different, unfurnished, like just empty on its own, like a shell. You think I've made a mistake. Like, that's what I thought. I was like, oh no, it's much smaller than I thought. And all of a sudden you start putting furniture and it feels like a home, you know, and then you start picturing yourself there. You don't want to get carried away with the colors and you know, because everyone's different, but you want to make it a canvas that people can add upon.
Yeah. Wow. And you touch on being an architect. I know that's what your previous life was potentially going to look like. Tell me, so you started...
Too many How I Met Your Mother episodes, you know. That's a Ted Mosby reference. I don't know if you've seen that show, but
no, I haven't seen that. But tell me, like, tell me about your architect background. How does that help you with your day to day?
So, well, in those cases, that's exactly what. When we're talking about organising things for sale, when we're talking about getting stylists in, it plays a part in that in terms of trying to visualise and help the owners visualise what is going to be here for the buyer. Similar in terms of conversations when you're with the buyer, talking about spaces, typically when they have issues and they think, oh, I can't get something here, or how do I make this space better? It just naturally plays a part, luckily. Almost like a reflex now. If someone has an objection to something, a lot of the time I've figured out a floor plan for them. Now, of course, things cost money. They may not have the budget, but offering them solutions I think is always very helpful. I tend to get the floor plan out plenty of times in open homes with a pen and start scribbling on it,
Wow.
saying this is what you could do to change the space, and so it comes into part.
That's actually pretty big because like no one really would actually do that, and it's really hard to look at a floor plan and go, oh, actually I can take this wall out here, which will open up the space and make me feel better. Very unique. Do you find that you get a really good reaction to that?
Typically, not based on like, it's more of like oh wow, I didn't think of that, and it's almost helping them seeing the space in a different way. And I think that's part of the job as a real estate agent, is helping them try to see the space in a different way using whatever tools we have. I've been fortunate that I've had that background to be able to kind of just see floor plans a bit different or see spaces a little bit different. I'm very visual, so it's different for me. So I've been lucky, but I've seen plenty of other people come from different backgrounds and using their skills. Like I've seen previous builders who can do the same. So and I think they typically do well in terms of building rapport with buyers too, which is always important, especially when it comes time to doing auctions and things like that, and just helping people make decisions about what to do next in terms of, okay, are we over capitalizing if we're renovating, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, no, I love it. And tell me, like, I want to know the journey, because you're from Wollongong originally. Like, how did you end up here in Sydney, hottest?
Oh mate,
one
who
of the hottest
knows?
markets
Who
in
knows?
Australia.
Is it though? I don't know.
Well, I said one of them.
What other 20?
Yes, but like, I mean, how does someone from Wollongong get to sitting in the number one mortgage broker's office?
Oh, that's an unfortunate position to be sitting here, mate. Let me tell you, in your presence, that's for sure. But it's been beautiful watching your journey as well, mate, from real estate agent to number one mortgage broker locally.
Yes.
Well, mate, I don't even know, mate, the story. Well, I was in real estate already. I was working for Belle down there. It's probably the start. I was obviously doing architecture first, fell into real estate after that, after not loving the whole architecture thing. One of my mates, Jake Moore, now works at Cooley Auction. I met him working at Belle in Wollongong. He's a Wollongong boy too, and a great auctioneer, one of the best, I will say, if not the best, tied with Damo Cooley. He'll appreciate me saying that. And he moved up here first. And of course, he was doing people's auctions. He was just starting out his career. Now it's too good for us now. But at the time, he was doing us little Randwick folk over at Belle Randwick. So he knew Shane, and I think Shane at the time, who I work for now, Shane Vincent at Belle Property Randwick, his current PA at the time, I think, quit, or like, and he's looking for someone new. And I think I must have asked Jake if he knew anyone, because I got a phone call one evening from Mr. Shane Vincent himself saying, mate, heard you think about coming to Sydney, love to meet up with you and all that. And I think after one, we went to the pub. We had a Sunday pub sesh. That was our first meeting, mate. And I'm pretty sure I was up here a couple months later.
Wow.
That's kind of how it happened. Oh, he's good, mate. He's a good prospect. They'd be texting you, mate. Think big, live the Sydney dream. Wow. This could be yours.
But tell me, before we get into what you've learned from Shane, like, so you work for a really big agent down in Wollongong. I mean, what was that like? What did you pick up there?
Definitely. So at the time, Belle Illawarra, Belle Wollongong, were the number one in the network at that current time when I was working there. Not because of me, I was just happened to be working there, learning the ropes. But
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. Because that's a big agent, and my first mentor, the first person I worked for, who Jake also worked for, which is how we became mates. He became the number one agent. I think it was on the climb when I first joined him, but we became the number one team even in the network at that time, which I think probably that's what also drew Shane's attention to me, just to bring some good habits into an older office, smaller office, in Randwick. And it was high volume. And it was quick pace, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. But yeah, there's some good habits definitely I picked up, but also some bad ones because things came easy. Which nothing should really come easy in your first few years of real estate, because it's a long business. It's a difficult business, and it were heavily auctions. And I think I learned most of my auction craft or method of sale via auction through him. He used to be an auctioneer first, and we were doing about 120, sometimes more deals a year, which is a lot.
120 deals.
Yeah,
wow. So
yeah.
you're seeing a lot
We were transacting every week. Was like 3 or 4,
Wow.
at least. And a lot of different ones. Sometimes I'd work at auction, sometimes it'd be for sale. Lots of different properties, much different price ranges. Like I came to Sydney for the first time, I was like kind of daunted, and then I remember again that mentor back then said, "Mate, it's just numbers. Like it's the same." Because I was thinking like a million at the time was big, because it was for down there at the time. Like you know, and I was thinking, how am I going to negotiate on $1 million+ deal? Like I got really nervous about it, thinking that it's different, but it's no different. It's just that the zeros are the same. And I remember him telling me something like that, and it flipped the switch for me, and it changed things. But yeah, I do remember that as being one of his good advice. He's the one who taught me about staying back and watching and observing. And I think that probably comes from his auctioneer background as well. I think auctioneers are good at that, the whole observation, watching things at auction, and then becoming an agent again, and using that same tactic on the floor as well. So there was definitely some good things, good things to learn.
And inspired you to continue to
It inspired me to keep going. It was a big move. It was a big move, and
network's everything.
It is everything. It is
Especially in
everything.
real estate.
You get a leg up, I suppose, when you were born and live in a place, because that's essentially your network, your social circle, I suppose, of influence, your sphere of influence, as people call it. So, yeah, you leave that, and it was hard. That the truth is, I struggled for a little bit, like because you got to make new friends in essence, you know, and build a support group around you, if you want to call it that, in terms of a personal life. Also, you're having new work people to try to, and at the time it was just all old people, no offense, but I was the youngest person there by miles when I first joined. And then you're also building a new database and learning a new area, which luckily enough, what are the good and bad. I remember one of the first open homes I had was down in Minneapolis Crescent, you know,
Okay.
so which wasn't too eye-opening, because we have some bad places down in the Gong, like we have some housing commission, don't worry. Down there that we sold plenty around, so it wasn't like I knew housing commission as soon as I saw it. I could tell, but it was funny because I think Shane was trying to give me the scare, trying to give me the warm welcome, but don't worry, mate, I've been around plenty.
I bet. And like when you did make the transition to an older office, like how do you fit in with an older team?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you fit in? Well, there's a lot of it took time. It took time because in an older office, they're set in their ways, and not for any like rightly or wrongly. It's just that's the way they do things, and often when you're young, you have your own ideas too, and you want to do different things. So there can be clashes, and then after a while, then you start proving yourself, and you stick in it. I think then your voice starts to get heard. But the hardest part is that in between period when your voice isn't, but you just got to know, look, it is what it is, and keep trying to get through it ultimately. So I think it was hard at the start to want to try new things and do new things. And I was coming from a younger office too. So the way I was doing things was the way everyone was doing things, and the way I thought everyone was doing things. But then you realize, oh no, these people are still using pen and paper. Like, there's a big difference. Oh, mate, Shana will laugh at this, but he definitely does. He's a pen and paper guy, mate. He's a pen and paper guy. But for the most part, it's a much younger office now. And we definitely don't, other than Shane, we definitely don't use pen and paper.
Yeah. What are some of the stuff that you're using, like tech platforms, or is there anything you're tracking on? What are you doing?
Oh, there's a number of them. I think every office is different. In ours, I guess our CRM system is where all our data is kept, is Agent Box, which wouldn't be, like, a lot of agents would have heard of that one. It just keeps everyone's data in terms of people, what they own, emails, phone numbers. If they're a buyer, what are they looking for? It's got requirements, that sort of thing. It keeps track of, properties they've visited, how many there is. I guess this is actually one thing why I love the network that I'm in, and why I've been there so long. So we're actually the only real network that has a combined database. Like, no one else has that. Like, there's plenty of franchises out there that pretend like they do, but ours is shared. So you can see someone's contact card, like a Blake Fawn, and see that he's looked at something in South Australia, Queensland. He owns property in Perth, and all these sorts of things, because they've interacted with other offices over there. And it gives you that information, as well as, there's been plenty of times, mate, I've sold things, for instance, like in East Gardens, and not many people search East Gardens. It's such a small suburb. They don't even know it exists. They just think Westfield East Gardens. It's just a shopping place. It's not a suburb. So there's times we've had to tap into that database by targeting people looking in Sydney or looking in Waterloo. And of course, we wouldn't have that data if we weren't part of the larger network, because we don't typically sell in Sydney City or Waterloo or Surrey Hills, where these other apartments, high density apartments, are. So the Surrey Hills office does, but I have access to their database. So you often can reach those people that way, and people will come. That's what it works. Like, I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, that's crazy. Shared databases in in real estate is not a thing. Like everyone
No,
wants
it's
to
not,
keep
because
their
it's concern, and there was big
yeah.
concern when we first made the merge. Like some people got really like, "Oh my god, what data?" And I completely understand that as an agent, because you are afraid. But I think if you let go of those small fears, that the ultimate gain is much more beneficial.
Was beneficial for the vendors because they're like you get a instead of getting one agent, you're getting a
Nationwide database. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. And I'm not going to pretend like, oh look, it's that your buyer is going to necessarily come from, South Australia or Perth or wherever it is, but they could.
Yeah.
And if they weren't thinking your place before, they may now getting a pop up because they probably never would have. Because who's searching? Who's searching? There's plenty of times that happens too, especially when I'm selling those East Gardens types places, or sometimes Maroubra.
But the example could also be I'm from South Australia. I'm only looking in Maroubra because I don't know what East Gardens is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'm looking for this type of property in this proximity. I've never heard of that suburb. I've never considered that suburb. But that's the price that's what gets you that kind of money gets you that. Like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I'll come take a look at it. That looks quite new or modern, and that's only like 900,000 or $1 million or whatever it is for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I may as well have a look.
Yeah. Amazing. And like, how important is a brand like Belle? Like for you, like you're wearing the green.
I'm
suit
wearing the
today.
green Belle suit, mate.
Like what is like
company
what
man.
is, like yeah, what does it mean? Because you've worked like let's go. How many years have you actually worked at Belle for?
7 years in Randwick and another 2 years in Wollongong. So 9 years.
So 9 years, Belle Property. You bleed green.
Bleed green.
Why
Greenway. I was really attracted to the brand mostly because of its boutique kind of reputation. And everyone talks about marketing. I think our marketing is good. I think there's definitely a component there that is much better than some of the other ones. That comes to photography. The green just stands out to me as well in the marketplace. Like I love seeing our green signboards around. Like I drive down to Maroubra Beach and it's just green signboards everywhere, and nothing makes me happier. Like because they stand out, and everyone else is like white or black, and or they all the same color. They all look the same to me. Like for me, and look, maybe I'm biased and I notice them more.
Yeah.
But to me, the green just pops. It stands out. It's a premium color. It's a premium brand. The properties that we get tend to be premium properties, and I think people associate Belle as being a premium brand and premium properties. It's almost like when they come there, they almost expect a premium experience, and everything head office gives us, as well as obviously a connected database. But in terms of the materials, like when you walked into a Belle open home, like I've been to plenty of open homes, mate, and I think we'd probably one of the best at doing it. Like in terms of the whole experience.
Explain it to me. What do you do?
In terms of just even like our brochures feel really high end. Obviously they cost more money, but that's part of it. Contracts, like I've seen people just bulldog clip a contract, and to me that just looks like you don't care. Like there's no thought into that whole kind of presence. There's standards to uphold. Like all our signage is done to a certain level. Like head office is very strict on what you can and can't use and put out there, even on social media, for example, in terms of how they want the brand to look. So everything from your cards that are on there and your profiles that are on there. Like I've seen some very basic open homes, and when I say open homes, I mean just what they have out in terms of the open home display.
Yeah.
Like can be very basic. Like we have a beautiful Belle magazine that we're associated with. We have In Situ, which is a magazine that has all our properties. It's not Belle branded, but it's owned by Belle, and it just has all the properties of all our networks combined over Australia. So there's just magazines and nice things everywhere. We've got Belle playlists on Spotify, so we're going big. Not that that's the major breakout.
Have you done any research? Has they obviously put together a playlist for houses? I wonder what sort of research goes into putting
who knows?
playlists
All I
in.
know is that they head office takes a big cut, and I'm sure they're using the money somehow.
And like in terms of like training and support that you get from the Belle network, what are you sort of doing?
Oh, mate, plenty. They offer heaps. They have an academy, and there's also there's people trainers there at head office if you want to reach out, if you're a younger agent, older agent, to engage with. I also like that because we are a network, but we're a network that actually gets along, and I think part of that is because we have borders in terms of what they call BDAs in areas. Like Belle Randwick will kind of do that Randwick and surround suburbs. Surrey Hills will do Surrey Hills, so there's no real too much crossover. So you're not competing. And
as in prospecting.
Yeah, prospecting and doing business. Not to say that you can't. It's just as in like you can't sell a home there if you know that client, but you can't actively prospect. With the Belle has a very strict franchise rules around that. Like I can't start letterbox dropping there, for example, and start marketing myself. They're coming from Randwick.
Yeah.
But that also builds a stronger network of people, because then now, you know, when you're talking about looking for help and things offering, like other officers are happy to, because you're not in their space, are happy to give you help. You're happy, like the boys at Surrey Hills, they're great, mate. Like, and sometimes we've done a bit of training with them, and they're two young blokes, mate, young office, really hungry, and they're doing really well, kicking goals, and being around that energy, and they're happy to help you. Like, and they're happy to spend a day with you, time with you, you know, a phone call with you. So, and that's not just them, but I think that's the network as a whole is like that because of that.
And how like important is that to you? Like because we've spoken about momentum at an auction campaign, but what's momentum like in an office feel like?
Well, I think it's important because it also gives you just another person to go to who isn't in your immediate vicinity. It's just going to give you a fresh perspective. Their marketplace could be very different to our marketplace, whoever you're reaching out to, you know, like, because again, every marketplace is different, where they might be transacting a lot more, or it might be a lot more apartments. They might be seeing things differently, or sometimes see things first. When markets go good, the good suburbs go gangbusters first before the bad ones. And similarly, when the market goes bad, the bad suburbs, you know, I guess that's a bad word to use, say bad suburbs, but the suburbs, less desirable suburbs and more affordable suburbs tend to, you know, get affected first before it gets to the good ones. So it's important to keep talking so you can see what's ahead of the curve and what's changing out there in different marketplaces and what buyer sentiment's like. So that's important too, as well as just not just leaning on the people in your office doing more of the same of you. And they could be doing things differently. They could be having different ideas, or they could have put out a marketing piece that's just different to what you're currently doing.
And getting that feedback to go, oh, actually, this really worked for us. You guys have to do it is pretty crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And what about, okay, so you just changed your word from saying the word bad to more affordable. How important is it to you to say the right words? And are you ever really thinking about it?
Sometimes, yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, you don't want to, it is a language. Yeah. And language is important. And I think bad is obviously the wrong word to use, because there's plenty of reasons why they make, like, the outer suburbs make sense, like the more affordable suburbs or whatever you want to call it. Everyone has their first preferences, of course. Then it comes down to affordability, or it comes down to just a lack of stock sometimes. Sometimes you'd really want a house, for instance, in Coogee, but nothing ever really comes up in Coogee. There's mostly apartment market, typically. There's a lot more apartment blocks than there is houses. There's very few. Yeah. So you could be waiting who knows how long before you start to go, you know what, maybe I'll look away from here and go somewhere else. So sometimes it's not affordability. Sometimes it's just they don't have the stock that you're looking for.
Yeah. No, but I mean more like the words that you choose to say to someone. Like, are you ever thinking, oh, I shouldn't say that word that way, or I should say a sentence differently? Yeah,
in the case that maybe they could be coming from somewhere like that, and I don't want to offend them. Yeah. Also, if I'm trying to sell a property, I would never use that language. Yeah. Because if they're already thinking that, you don't want them to think that. Like, what are you going to say? Oh, that's like someone saying, oh, what do you think of this small apartment?
Yeah, exactly.
You'd never.
It's something that people miss sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like words may have serious.
They carry a meaning. Yeah. They carry, and delivery.
Yeah.
Delivery is super important too. So it's not just what you say; it's how you say it, and at what time, like the timing around it, the pausing and the gaps in between.
And do you have to be mentored for something like
Mate,
that?
absolutely. No, I'm rubbish at it.
Yeah, no, you're pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, I've had coaching for a long time. Oh, anyone does, like in the business. I think it's super important that they should. If they don't, has to have some type of coach, you know. Yeah. And it can be someone who isn't a real estate coach. Real estate's obviously going to be super helpful in terms of what you do. Like, I know people who, and I probably should do speech coaching or acting coaching for real estate, because that they find that's helpful, which is probably makes sense too in a way, to be a better speaker. Yeah. You know, but there's plenty of real estate coaches out there, for sure. And I've always had one. I haven't had one the last year or two, but
there you go. He's killing it. How many sales did you do last year? How many would you transact on?
Oh, I don't even know. Oh, what did he do? 50 or something? I don't know. It's maybe 60. 60. Who knows, mate? You're focused on the now. You don't think about the past, brother. You gotta think about the present. Keep churning.
Yeah, amazing. And tell me, how do you switch? Like, do you ever switch off? Are you always on? What do you do?
No way, I'm switching off. I'm switching off completely. No, Sunday definitely is a day to switch off for me. Just you know, just relax, get into it. When you live in your own place, mate, you got to clean it. There's no mum and dad for you to clean it. Yeah. Laundry. Just get ahead of the week. Cook, clean, groceries. Like to run. So I do run in that time, but pretty much Monday to Saturday definitely. Not to say that it won't work Sunday, because I will. I'll pick up the phone if someone's calling for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just not doing. I'm not doing real too many outbound calls on Sunday.
Yeah.
But Monday to Saturday, mate, you're on.
And like, how important is it for you to maintain exercise? Like for you, like if you stop, because I know you train a lot. If you stop, what happens?
Well, you can tell. No, it's super important, and for a number of reasons, not just for physical health, which I think physical health and work health go hand in hand. Because I think if you're not, feeling your best, then your probably work life is probably going to suffer too, in terms of health. But I think it also, from a subliminal point of view, it builds discipline, it builds momentum, it builds accountability. It's so many things that, like, hardship, like there's so many things, like, you know what I mean. And I say hardship, that's probably the wrong word, but it just brings resilience. You know what? Like, especially like I do a lot of running, or like HIIT type of exercises, and there's plenty of times during those exercises you want to give up and you want to stop, and you realize that you can't. Like, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep put one foot in front of the other if you want to reach the end. And I think real estate and probably a lot of occupations are like that too. Like, there can be some really hard moments where you want to stop and give up, and taking a break's important, of course, but then you just got to put one foot in front of the other, or one phone call in front of the other, and keep going.
And tell me, how important are breaks for you? Like, because I know you go away a couple of times a year.
Hey.
What does that break mean to you, and why do you do it?
What's even funnier is that I never used to believe in them. I used to think it was a bit of a cop out, and I used to be one of those people like, I'm just gonna work straight through. I don't get tired. Blah blah blah. Yeah. I was so like that. I'm still building, my business and everything else, and who I am and my profile. So I'm just gonna keep going while others are away, which there's definitely some merit to that. But I think since I started actually going away, I think it's been a huge difference. I think it's the huge difference in your energy. Also, just gives you goals to look forward to, as well as remember to enjoy life. I think that's super important. But I think if you're fortunate enough to go four times a year, then good for you. I'm not, but I'll go away twice, and at least that way, it's broken up into, like, I guess, thirds. Breaking up into quarters is probably better to treat it like a game. But I think it's a lot of money and a lot of time off. So I'm not there yet, but I'll go away twice a year, definitely overseas, and treat it as like segments of if it was like, if I've for 4 or 5 months, whatever it is in between, and then work really hard for that 4 months or 5 months or 3 months up until that break, because then you have a goal in mind, and there's an end point. So you just hit the ground running. Like, this is it. This is like, you just get tunnel vision. Yeah. I find then you go away, you feel great, you're refreshed, then you come back, and your energy's better, because real estate's an energy game, mate. Like, it's all energy. Like, it's all it is. Like, people can sense it if you're on the phone. Like, you don't want to be calling like a robot or talking to someone like a robot. Like, it's all energy, and the fresher you are, the better your energy is. And especially in those times, if people aren't taking breaks, they'll start to slow down. You can hear it. They'll start to give up, or they'll start to leave work a little bit earlier.
Especially towards the end of the year.
Yeah, towards the end of the year, for sure. In the middle.
When do you time your holidays? Like, are you like dialed in to go, this is the time I want to go away, this is the time I want to come back for a certain reason? To a degree, because I work in a team with Shane, Steph, who's in our team, and our marketing person, a team of 4, then it's a balancing act, because obviously taking into account when they're going away too. That's the advantage, I suppose, of being in a team. You can go away and have people kind of back you up and take over your stuff. So there's a bit of a balance act of when are they going away, when we'll slot in, when we'll fit in, what events are on, sort of thing. I think based on that, I don't really have a set day and time. Like, for instance, if there's a cool marathon, I'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, I'll go over there and make it a holiday at the same time, type of thing. Like, I'll do that, but there's no real set for me. I like it. Everyone's different. I love it. And maybe I'm trying to buy a place. Maybe I can't go away this year. I don't know, mate. Actually finish these numbers.
Let's do these numbers, mate.
The whole time. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through your numbers about you selling your place and upsizing, because you've seen an opportunity. Tell me about the opportunity you've seen first.
As in the property itself?
Yeah.
Like the details of it?
Yeah, as in, like, why are you interested in upsizing now? Like, is it price? Is it location? Why are you making a move to sell your property?
A bit of everything, I suppose. Ultimately, I think that that property that I did see obviously started making me think, okay, maybe now could be a time, based on price for that position. Ultimately, there's not many properties that come on in that pocket, and that's a specific pocket that I kind of want to be in.
Yeah. So
And
we're talking just in overall, so we're talking North Maroubra pocket.
yeah,
You're moving from Clovelly or selling Clovelly Beach, moving to the North Maroubra pocket.
yeah,
North
by the
Maroubra?
by the fawns.
Why North Maroubra to start?
Mate, so I can see, I can drive past your place every day, mate. That's why. No, but well, well, the viewers won't know, but mate, as you know, most of my sales, well, actually, nearly all of them are Maroubra. I'm a Maroubra-based agent. I live and breathe Maroubra. Maroubra is kind of the place I want to be in. It's where I sell in. It's where I spend the most time, and I knew I was going to end up there eventually. Even when I was looking for the first place, I was looking in Maroubra. I just didn't pan out that way. Not that I'm complaining. But it's a beautiful place to live, mate. It offers a lot. I see the growth long term. I think there's got so much growth to go. If we're talking about big beaches, like this, Maroubra and Bondi are probably the two big beaches, and arguably ours is much better surf beach. There's also like so much things to happen in the next few years, I think, and I'm really excited about, especially as someone not just who sells real estate there, but who wants to live there. Like the whole development of that beachfront in the next few years is going to be great. Like I think they got some big plans. I can't talk too much about it because I'm not them, but I know that the Seals and another landowner have got some big plans on doing some beautiful redevelopment down there. The council has given grants.
I heard you say another landowner. I know that you have a buyer that continues to buy from you.
Oh, that one too. No,
Yeah,
well, I was talking about someone else, but yeah, you're right.
Right.
His one too. So there's
A
beautiful
big developer that's buying blocks on, generally
Yeah.
closest to the beach, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Owns heaps down there, and I think that's going to redevelop the beachfront. Ultimately, one, make it a better experience and a better place to be and drive around, but also raise prices up because I think people are going to want to be around there. And I think council has a different appetite now, especially for that beachfront. I think they really want to turn it into the next Bondi, and I know they've been saying that for years, but I think that it's definitely changed and it's heading in that direction. Well, just based on the prices now alone, like it's super expensive. They want to have nice commercial, kind of like Campbell Parade, like just have beautiful commercial, then properties above, and make it a real nice place. I know they're going to put some money into the Broad Walk. They've got big plans there to change the promenade, similar to what they did to Coogee a number of years ago. So there's definitely big government spending there as well as a private spending, and I think that prices are only going to get better, as well as the enjoyment of that suburb. Because at the moment, mate, you go there at night time, it's quiet. Like there's not many restaurants and really other than Maroubra Bay as a hotel, it's not really like bars or anything. Like it's quiet, which is also nice at the same token, but it's ripe for I suppose gentrification, which it almost already is based on prices alone. Like it's expensive, so even say gentrification's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, I mean, you drive down most streets in Maroubra, especially North Maroubra, and every second house is either being sold or renovated or knocked down and rebuilt.
Mate,
there's serious money coming.
And some of these prices now are nuts. And I think the sooner you get in, and lucky enough for you, you're already there in a couple of properties, but the sooner you get in, I think the better it is long term.
Yeah, well, that's with everything. All markets across
All
Australia.
markets.
The earlier you get in, the better.
All
If you're
markets,
in an area,
but in a high growth suburb with great potential.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that
With a
biasly as a Maroubra agent, but it has huge potential.
limited supply. That's the sort of the secret sauce, I think.
Limited supply, and infrastructure about to increase.
If anyone's listening to this point, good on you. So
It's been long.
Mate, let's wrap that up. Mate, Clive, you're an absolute amazing man in terms of you're straightforward as it gets. You call a spade a spade. You tell someone no, which is very rare out there. How do people get in touch with you?
Roll the dice, mate.
How do people get in touch with you so they can do business with you?
Oh, mate, you can find me on, Belle Property Randwick. Just Google Clive Carter, Belle Property Randwick, or, realestate.com or domain. But my phone number is 04 211 64951.
Clive, I can't wait to continue watching your journey grow. And mate,
Hey, vice versa, my friend, vice versa.
Well, thanks for coming on, Clive. And mate, for everyone listening, thanks for listening to Pack Chat. We'll catch you on the next one.